No, before we begin, you guys have some questions. You can definitely put them in while we're waiting for the others. And I'm also presuming that everyone's not from a tech background. Am I right on that? It's not only computer science students. Is it also non-tech students who are part of this discussion today? It'll help me to kind of, okay, marketing, okay, fine. Anyone else? Anyone from the finance side? Okay, that's cool. Harshal's question about how good is technical analysis. Well, I think technical analysis is more guesswork, where you try to read into these charts and you kind of try to read into those lines. I don't believe in it much. Okay, we are live. So, Vivan, do you want me to start or do we still wait for others to join in? We can start off. Okay, Abhishek's from finance. Great. So, hi, welcome everyone. Today's discussion is going to be how to crack the top career opportunities in Web3, crypto, blockchain. Now, before I start, I'd like to clarify some things. That what do we mean by this term Web3? A lot of people ask me, is it hype? Is it real? So, definitely there is a lot of hype around it. But when we try to understand what it really means, so one of the core principles is trustless. So Web3 is a trustless world. What does that mean? It means we do not trust people, we trust code. So that's the meaning of trustless. It's not that trustless means no one trusts anyone. You don't trust people, you don't trust entities, you trust code. And code is something that people can verify, audit, look at, and then we only trust the code. Another very important part of Web3 is where we talk about, permissionless. So anybody can be part of it. Or we also say that crypto is used as a method of payment. So you will realize that in a lot of the Web3 projects, somewhere or the other, you're going to have blockchain assets like cryptos, which are going to be used for the whole system. So I can see there are people from law, recruiter background. Okay, awesome. So it's a nice combination of people. So let me first just share my screen. Give me a second. Okay. Now you should be able to see something with written Web3 careers on top. Is that clearly visible? Web3 careers, below that my name. Okay, awesome. So first of all, I've divided Web3 into 13 types of jobs that are available. So when we look at the first line here, those are the tech jobs. So there is a smart contract developer, a full stack developer, and a front end developer. Now, what does that really mean? Smart contracts are auto executable kind of codes so that it can automate functions. So let me take a very simple example. Let's say we are an insurance company or our client is an insurance company. Today, what happens is people fill up a form and apply for insurance. Then, when something goes wrong, they again have to apply to get the money. Now, if we were to automate this using a smart contract, let's say I go to the airport and before boarding the flight, I click a few buttons and I buy a flight insurance that if my flight is delayed by more than 1 hour, I will get some compensation from the company. When I land, I don't have to make any filing. Automatically, the insurance smart contract will pull the information about the landing time of the flight from an Oracle service provider, some kind of data service provider. And if I'm eligible, they will automatically send the money to my wallet. If I'm not, I don't get anything. But it kind of automates the whole thing. That's what is an example of a smart contract. And smart contract can be written in a lot of different languages like Solidity, Rust, and Viper. So that is the first kind of opportunity which is available. Then we also have somebody called a full stack developer. So if you're from the tech background, you know what that means. Full stack is somebody who does the entire end to end. So the front end, the smart contracts, the back end, integrating all of them. That's the job of the full stack guy. And then we have the front end developer. So what you actually end up seeing, API integrations and other things are done by a front end developer to give you the final user experience that you get. So these are the most important three roles in tech in Web3. I've made detailed posts on them, so feel free to have a look at it on my Instagram account or my blog. And it'll give you for each of these, what are the skills, what are the kind of roles you get, and what is the kind of salary you can hope to earn. Any questions so far on these three kind of things, the tech ones? If there's no question, you can just type in no question. So I'll move on to the next one. Can someone give me a quick, yeah, okay, awesome. Akshay's question on the salary. So yeah, that's a good point. So It could range, of course, but you can, as a fresher also, you can at least get about 50 to 60K. That's $1,000 per annum. And ideally, I would say try to get a remote job with an American or European startup. That's usually one of the best paying. But don't worry, we are going to go into this part a little later about how to get these jobs, how to apply, what is the kind of action plan you should have. For tech roles, do they require degrees or anything is okay? Rishi, that's a very good question. And to answer it first, let me give you a little bit of my personal background. So for that, let me just unshare. Give me a second. I hope I'm visible to all of you. So I actually come from a non-tech background because when I was in college, and that was the early 1990s, when I think most of you guys were probably not born. Am I right on that? Most of you were probably not born in the early 90s. Now, at that time, there was no concept of a computer science engineering degree. So I have actually from yeah, we were too old. So what I've done is I've actually done a BCom as far as education goes, and then I've done my law also. But from the early 90s, I've been working in tech. So I started off as a hacker and then moved into cybercrime investigation. Worked for companies and law enforcement in about 18 countries, and then I got to hear about Bitcoin for the first time in 2011 when I was investigating a case of the Colombian drug mafia using Bitcoin to sell drugs through platforms like Silk Road, which was a dark web platform. So I got really interested in that. And then a few years later, I moved completely into the blockchain space. And ever since then, I've been a blockchain architect, right? So, but my time was different because we didn't have computer science engineering at that time. Today, usually for a tech role, any employer would prefer someone who has a tech background like a computer science degree or an IT degree. So whether it's a BSc kind or it's a 4-year BTech, that would usually be what companies would need as a basic qualification, at least for the tech roles. Yeah. Akshay's question, where do we find jobs in Web3? Give me some time. Towards the next part of the session, I'm going to go into that. First, let me just talk about all the different opportunities. Any questions till now? Although, Vivan, I think you and I should have a competition on pull-ups once and see who does more. Huh? Whether the older guy does it or the younger one. Yeah. So, any questions? Should I go on? Okay. I'm going back to sharing my screen. Okay. Now, there are two core finance kind of roles which are there. So one is token economist and the second is DeFi analyst. So what a token economist does is he advises projects, he or she would advise projects. Just give me 1 second. So yeah, so that person would be basically advising new projects about what kind of token they should have, inflationary, deflationary, asset backed or dual token system. Then they would also advise about how to do your fundraising, ICO, reverse ICO, SAFT. There's a whole bunch of things that they need to do. And that's what we call as a token economist. And that's kind of also been the role I've been doing. So if I really look at what I've been doing for such a long time in this industry, one is I would say I've been doing development definitely. And then I also do this token economist role for which I actually consult with a lot of startups. I may have advised over 100 startups till now in that particular field. A DeFi analyst, on the other hand, is a decentralized finance analyst. So they are the ones who are going to be looking for opportunities for revenue maximization. So, you know, which kind of protocols to invest in, different metrics. That's the kind of role that a DeFi analyst does. So those are the two core finance ones. And there I would be very honest with you, if you have some kind of a finance background. So maybe you've done, say, an MBA finance. That would definitely give you an added edge over anybody else. Siddhant's question is, can we get non-core technical roles also? Yeah, sure, definitely. From LinkedIn, someone else says, can I become a smart contract developer by learning only Solidity? Yeah, sure, that's the way to start. So you start with any one language. So Solidity, Viper, Rust, these are some of the popular ones. Solidity happens to be the most popular. So definitely that's the way you would start. Someone's question is, if someone doesn't have a background of development or coding, how easy is it to learn? Okay, so that's a good question. Easy is a very relative term, depends on your aptitude and how much time you're ready to spend on it. So I can't really answer that question, but start with Solidity. That would be a good way to start. Yeah. Then, what are some of the roles that we can get in tech if we have some background in app development? So like I said, the roles for tech you can see on top there, there's smart contract developer, full stack developer, front end. There are a few other miscellaneous roles, but what I'm going to do is later in the second part of this session, I'm going to show you the career sites from where you can look for these jobs. So that will then make it a lot clearer, what are the kind of roles you should be going for. So let me just first finish some of the others. Then we have three very interesting ones, which are community manager, social media manager, and sales and marketing manager. So here, probably like an MBA marketing would definitely be an add-on, but if you don't have it, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Now, as a community manager, I would say that's one of the most important roles, because for any Web3 projects, community is the single most important thing. And it is a community manager's job to really grow that community. Again, I've made detailed posts on it. You can definitely have a look. And social media manager, simple to understand, you'll be managing the social media accounts and content creation for Web3 project. And sales and marketing is exactly what it is in any other area of the world, where your job is to get the business in, right? So those are three, you could say, kind of marketing or business related opportunities which are there. Harshal says, what are the skills required for DeFi analysis? So like I said, I've got some detailed posts on it which you could look at, but most importantly, you need to understand finance pretty well. And of course, then you need to understand the crypto market very well. So all the different kinds of projects that we have, tokenization projects, currencies, governance tokens, there are so many different kind of projects. You need to be able to understand all of them. Like in DeFi itself, we have about 20 kinds of protocols, whether it's a decentralized exchange, yields, farms, so many are there. You need to understand all of them so that you can pick out good investing opportunities. Hope that answers your question, Harsha. Tarun's question is, in Web3 community manager similar to Web2? No, it's a lot different, because see, in Web2, the community is not that, I would say, aggressive the way it is in Web3. Web3 communities are a whole different kind of people. I mean, just go to the Twitter accounts or Discords of some of the Web3 projects and you'll understand what it means. So while the fundamentals are the same, the way in which you engage a Web3 community is very different from any other kind of community in the world. Web3 guys are a whole different world out there. Any other questions on those business opportunities? Then I'll go to the next one. Then we have two related opportunities, which is blockchain lawyer and crypto crime investigator. So a blockchain lawyer, why it becomes important, compliance and law is a very important concept in this industry. You may have read in the media that all the crypto exchanges of India are in big trouble right now with the money laundering laws. So lots of investigations are going on to them. So similarly, there is a whole bunch of laws that they need to follow. Secondly, it's not just exchanges. Every single startup or Web3 project needs to comply with laws of all the countries they're going to do business in. So whether it's the laws of India, US, Singapore, Malta, European Union, you really need to know them well. And Japan, of course. So that's what a blockchain lawyer would do. Again, I've made detailed posts on that. A crypto crime investigator would usually work for an investigation firm or the police departments or the income tax kind of departments. And there, because a lot of criminals today use crypto, a lot of people use crypto for money laundering, evading taxes. So these are the people who actually investigate and solve it and figure out who the criminals are, how are they misusing crypto. Then you also have a lot of hackings and other things which happen in crypto projects. There you need a very high level of knowledge to figure out how exactly that crime was carried out. So that's kind of what a crypto crime investigator does. Now, from a blockchain lawyer's point of view, you don't have to be an LLB or a lawyer. The only part is, if you want to represent those cases in court, then you would need an LLB. Otherwise, you don't really need that. Crypto crime investigator, there's no real qualification per se. You just need to have a bent of mind, which is more investigation focused. So if you like watching those kind of investigation serials, you probably have that kind of thinking. Someone's question is, what are some good resources to learn about? Okay, I'll come to that resources in some time. Shashank's question, intrinsic value of Bitcoin. Shashank, we'll have to take that in some other session. Today it's only about the career opportunities. Any questions on these two that I just spoke about, blockchain lawyer and crypto crime investigator? I hope it's all clear. I'm not going too fast. Can someone give me a quick, yes, it's clear kind of thing? Okay, awesome. Someone says, I'm a BBA finance and managing innovations and IT will be. Yeah, definitely it would be. So I would advise, if you are already in the finance field, then definitely look at going into token economics or DeFi analyst kind of a role. which country would you say is the best to practice blockchain law? So I would definitely say India is one of the best because we have some of the maximum number of Web3 projects that are coming up. India is of course very good. US is extremely good. And then of course, third I would probably say is the European Union, and then Latin America, Africa, so many other coming. But I would say if you're talking about the top two countries, it would definitely be India and the US. Then we finally have three roles which don't fit into any of the other categories. There is a UI UX designer. So, someone who designs the user interface and the user experience. Again, very important because many times the normal people find Web3 applications very complicated. So it is very important for the designer to make it simple, while at the same time enabling all the functionality. It has to be simple for the end user. So that's why that's a very important area. And then you have the regular product managers and project managers. Product manager, you can sort of consider like a CEO of a project or a particular product, sorry. And a project manager, I mean, could be handling all multiple products and they would be managing entire teams. That's very similar to any other kind of line. Okay, now here I have some questions. Let me just look at them. Somehow today the learn tokens are not getting created. Yeah, so today's session, okay, I'm not sure about that. Maybe so Vivan will answer that question. So these are the 13 different kinds of roles. Any questions on these 13? What is covered, what is not covered? You can ask me. If it's all clear, then I'll move to the next one. Can I have a quick, all clear, great. Now I want to talk about how do you really build a career, and it's not very complicated, but there are certain things you need to actually keep in mind. So I hope you can see this thing here, one skill up written on my screen. Can you just give me a yes if it's visible? Awesome. So now the first thing that you need to do is you need to build the skills, right? You can't just say, I want to straight away jump into the field. So once you have selected out of these 13 opportunities, which is the one you want to go for? So ideally you would select one. After that, you need to get the right skills, and this is where most people go wrong. Please don't go for theory or don't go for these random kind of courses run by educational institutions. With all due respect, they are not usually very practical. When you want to understand what to learn, look at the actual job posts which are put up by the recruiters. So let's take an example. Do you see here? I mentioned few of the sites. So there is a site called web3.career. One of the best sites. Hundreds of jobs are listed. So you actually need to go to these sites and then see the job profile that you are applying for or you want to do. What are the skills that the companies ask in that? So when you are learning, don't learn some random stuff which is not going to help you. When the company in their job post has mentioned these are the 10 skills that we need you to have, then make sure those are the exact skills that you learn. This is where I feel a lot of people go wrong, where they learn it from a theoretical point of view, but when it comes to the job, they don't crack it because they've not actually learned the skills which the recruiter wants. Is that part clear? So, and then there are also interview questions. So make sure before you go for an actual interview, please go through these standard interview questions and make sure you have answers to all of them and your learning has been done completely from that point of view. And make sure your learning is very, very practical, right? Theory is okay for till a certain limit, but you have to have a lot of practical knowledge. You need to know how to build stuff. That's very, very critical if it's a tech role especially. If it's a non-tech role, you still know how to practically do stuff. So if you're becoming an investigator, you need to know how to investigate. If you're becoming a blockchain lawyer, you need to know actually how to comply with the law. So that's what I mean by practical knowledge. So is this first part clear? The skill up part? You're going to learn based on what companies are mentioning in job posts. You're going to solve interview questions, and then you're going to get your practical knowledge. Okay, awesome. Let me just take a couple of questions. Can you tell what about to post in blogs, videos? Give me some time. I'm just coming to that. Why only DeFi? What about other applications? Well, that's a very good point. So I'll be very honest with you here. According to me, there is only one good blockchain use case, and that is called smart asset lifecycle management, where you create these tokens which are going to do a lot of magic. So that is the reason I also will talk more about DeFi or decentralized finance, because come on, finance is the area in which the whole evolution of blockchain is happening. So that's the reason I also stress a lot on the DeFi part of it. Then the second thing that you need to do, right, is to build something. So once you are done with your studies, If it's tech role, make an open source project. Even if it's basic, make it on GitHub and start sharing the link with people, telling them about it, so that as a recruiter, they can see that you actually know how to do stuff. So building a project, of course, if you're doing non-tech, then you can't build an open source project. Then you could write an ebook, you could make videos explaining whatever you've learned. And if the quality of that is good, actually you will get many offers just based on that. So it becomes really important for you to tell the world that you know stuff, right? Let me see some of the questions. How do you know which companies to work for? So many companies go bust. So how do? Well, Ishan, that's a very good question. It's very tough to give you a parameter to gauge it. But if you read about that company online and look at different people's reviews, you could kind of figure out whether this company makes sense. Secondly, look at what the company is doing. See the kind of traction they're getting. Look at the product they have. Does it make sense to you? Do you think they have a good use case? So there you're going to have to do some qualitative thinking. Yeah. What is the scope of token economists or Web3 legal consultants in India? I would say very, very good, because a lot of projects are actually coming from India. We are one of the top countries today when it comes to do anything with tech. And Web3 is another tech, right? So India is definitely, I would say, either the best in the world or maybe second just after the US. How would a novice crypto guy enter the product management space? Yeah, that's a good question. So product management, again, I've written a separate detailed post on that. So maybe you could have a look at that. I won't be able to go into that detail right now. Now, once you've done this building, now comes part 3, which is really critical, which is networking, right? So everywhere there are events which are happening, online events, offline events. Attend as many as possible. And offline events, I would say now are better, because that's when you actually get to make people and network. Now, if you happen to live in a city where such events don't happen, I would strongly suggest moving to a city where such events do happen. Like Bangalore would probably be number one, and then you would have Bombay, Pune, Hyderabad, Delhi. You need to go out there and meet people. Otherwise, how would people know you exist? So it's very important for you to network. And then again, everybody that you meet, connect to them on LinkedIn. Engage with them on LinkedIn, Discord, Reddit. There are so many platforms out there. You need to go and be on those platforms. That's today how people network and connect to each other. So that's step number 3. Any questions? Is it all clear? Just give me an all clear. Okay, awesome. Then step 4 is to get an internship. So here I would say you need an internship which gives you solid experience. Forget about the stipend. Even if you don't get stipend, that is not important. Practical experience is important. And ideally try to get an internship in the project that you finally want to join. They are more likely to take you if you've interned with them. So if you even do a free internship with them, but they're happy with your work, chances are they would probably recruit you. So internship becomes critical, and that's what gives you the experience. So you've learned, you've skilled up, you've built something, you've networked, and now you get a good internship where you get practical knowledge and you see how do things work in the real world. And then finally, of course, you have the final stage where either you're going to go for a job, or you're going to get your own startup as an entrepreneur, or you're going to become a consultant. So today, even that's a big thing. So, you can just take up gigs. You don't have to take up a full-time job if you don't want. Or maybe you're still in college, but you still want to start working. So then you could take up gigs for that. I've made some sites here. I've mentioned Fiverr.com, Upwork.com. You can even pick up freelancing contracts from them. So these would be the 5 steps that you would follow. Someone's question is how to find events. So there are many ways. One is, of course, LinkedIn. Second is meetups. So there is a site called meetup.com. They will be listing a lot of the meetups there. And then look at all the other media sites and follow the projects. Now, almost every project will have an India center also. And then go to their websites and you'll be able to see what all opportunities are there. And LinkedIn usually is one of the best places. Almost everything gets listed there. That's how you'll be able to find. And yes, Siddharth mentions Twitter. Yes, definitely. Twitter is also a very important site. So when it comes to Web3, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, all of these platforms are and of course, even Facebook for some projects, but these are the platforms that you need to be present on. Is portfolio really important for blockchain developers? So that's a good question. See, look at it this way. If you're hiring somebody, and if that somebody has already done something, isn't that better rather than someone who's only learned but has never done anything practical? So your portfolio is a way of showcasing to the employer that, look, I already know how to do stuff. So yeah, I would say it's really critical. That's why I said build something. It's very, very important for you to build something. Hope that's clear, Sana. Any other questions? So is this part clear? So we spoke about 13 kinds of career opportunities, and now we've spoken about the 5 steps that we need to really take. That's kind of more or less what I had planned for today's discussion. So now if you guys have questions, I think it'll be best if we can take them. So let me just quickly stop sharing my screen. Yeah. So now if you guys have questions, I can take them. How Solidity and Python, well, quite different. So, well, see, it's very difficult to compare any two languages. I mean, because each language would have its own syntax, its own way of doing stuff. About the transition being easy, yeah, it's not that difficult. See, it just depends on how much time you spend, right? So if someone, how much time will it take me if I say, you could do stuff in 1 week, depends on how many hours a day you're working and how solid you're working. But yeah, it's not difficult. These are not so difficult languages to learn. The basic syntax of any computer programming language is not difficult. What is difficult is logic and how to build your applications and how to write code in a very optimized and strong manner. The syntax is never the problem. In fact, I'll give you an example. There's a very good site called Open Zeppelin. Okay, let me just quickly put the URL for you. Open Zeppelin. So they've got a very nice wizard, right? And you can just click, 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 and it'll create a smart contract for you. And you can use that smart contract to create any kind of crypto tokens. So why I'm sending you that link or why I'm telling you about it is that you can actually get ready-made code. Like even Open Zeppelin has a lot of strong templates. So don't worry about that part of it. What you need to figure out is, given a use case or a business problem, how are you going to apply all this learning to solve that problem in a good way? Syntax is no longer a big issue. You have so many ready-made templates available. That part is not difficult. Krish's question, marketing in Web3 is a good career? Yes, I would say. See, first of all, marketing in any industry is one of the best things because marketing is always needed. And definitely in Web3 today, because of so many projects, marketing is definitely a very important career opportunity. Prakash's question is, please tell me what to post on social media or blogs. Sure. So it would depend on what you've learned. So suppose you are learning blockchain law, then you would make regular posts around that, where you would give people information about how compliance is done in different countries. If you are going for a tech career, then you will tell people about the smart hacks that you have for maybe programming, building solutions. Maybe you could, review some of the projects and give your own point of view on them. So it depends on what you're doing. Just remember one thing, the content that you post has to be valuable. Somebody who looks at it should feel it is worth my time trying to go through. So I would say that's the yardstick. So if you want some ideas, why don't you follow me on LinkedIn and see what I post, or on Instagram. That'll give you a good idea about what kind of stuff you can put. Someone's question is, why only DeFi? Why not other applications of blockchain? No, it's not like that. There are many applications, but I spoke about DeFi when we spoke about the finance application. So when I told you those 13 careers, 2 of them were specifically in finance. And that is why I mentioned DeFi in that. But otherwise, there are lots of opportunities. For example, in India, do you know there is a website which the government of India runs, which is called blockchain.gov.in. And they are mentioning all the use cases which the Indian government is doing. There are more than 40 use cases in the India's national strategy for blockchain. Do you know that even CBSE results are now being stored on the blockchain by the government in India? So there's lots of action which is taking place. Yeah, Team Creators shared my LinkedIn profile. That'll give you some idea. Could you also put my Instagram link here? Let me see Shashank's question. I know a bit theory of the working of blockchain, but no practical experience. So Shashank, first step would be for you to identify out of those 13, which career do you want to go for? And then, like I said, for each of them, I've made detailed, posts. So then you could go through them. I think the simplest would be to go through my Insta. I made all the posts are there. So just go through it. It'll give you a good idea. Ritesh says, what is the scope for CAs in blockchain law? I would say it's very, very important. So company secretaries, chartered accountants, lawyers, for all 3 of them, I would say there's huge scope in blockchain law. Again, Ritesh, for that also, I made a separate video, which I did just recently on Creator itself. Maybe you could have a look at that. Sana's question is, should a developer also have good understanding about DeFi? Yeah, that's a very good point. It is. I'll tell you why. Because see, as a developer, you are going to build these protocols. or you're going to build apps connected to these protocols. So if you don't understand how the finance works, like how does a decentralized finance work, how do liquidity pools work, how is yield farming done, if you don't understand that, you cannot code it. So yes, certain knowledge of DeFi is critical even for developers, because you're going to build for those products. Harshal, do we have a website or source to learn about Indian law for blockchain? Well, I've started to write posts on them, so definitely you can follow me on LinkedIn. I keep posting there, and I also have a course, by the way. You can always take that up. So if give me a second, let me just put the URL for you. Or if you're looking for Indian and international laws on blockchain, you can look at that course also. If we can see these 13 verticals somewhere in your social media, yeah, sure. So I've just posted it today on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So let me just put the link for you. Give me a second. I'll just post it here. One sec. Okay. So I'm sharing this link for the 13 opportunities here. You guys can have a look at that. Okay. Shashank's question is your opinion on the future of cryptocurrency. So I don't like to use the word cryptocurrency because all cryptos are not currencies. Some cryptos are currencies like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero, but then there are also other kinds of crypto assets. So you have, for example, governance tokens like Uniswap, or you have security tokens. So there are many different categories. So while I think most of the currencies will fail, very few will remain, but other kinds of things like utility coins, governance coins, I think they're going to really, really do well in the long run. Someone's question is, if we know how to make a 10K collection of NFT and stuck with them, meaning not able to sell them, what exactly? I'll be very honest with you, these kind of digital art NFTs, I am absolutely bearish on them, and I think they have, I don't think they have any value. That's my personal opinion. Siddesh's question is Hyperledger frameworks or public blockchains, which stack can be better? So I would say public blockchains. The Hyperledger kind of frameworks, I don't think are going to be there for too long in the future. I think it is much better for you to focus on some of the public ones. So there's a very detailed post I did, which I will just share with you guys, where there's something called the developer stack, right? Let me just show it to you. Give me 1 second. I will just share my screen. Okay, no, I'll just put the thing here. So in this, what I've done is, I've just put the link there for you. So I've made a list of all these different technologies that you need to know. So in that, I've mentioned what I feel are some of the most important blockchains. So, things like Ethereum, Polkadot, Polygon, Celo, all these are the ones that you should focus on. I wouldn't be very positive on Hyperledger. Someone's question is, can you give some good use cases of blockchain? Sure. So some of the use cases that I see doing well, definitely number one is always decentralized finance or DeFi. So then another very important use case is tokenization, where real world assets are being tokenized on the blockchain, whether it is gold, silver, agricultural commodities, or one of my projects which I'm working on where copyright of movies, books, music, and art is being put on the blockchain. So that we call as tokenization. That's another use case which is doing very well. So those are some of the good examples of that. What will be the roadmap for DeFi analysts and token economists for non-tech guys? So again, like I said, I've made a detailed post on that. So again, just go to my Instagram, you'll be able to see those. I've made those posts very simple for you to understand. So that will give you the steps to follow. Rijul's question is, does Metaverse have a future? Good question. Now let me first tell you my background with Metaverse. So I started to use Metaverse about more than 10-15 years ago. It was called Second Life. I think it's still there. Now in Second Life, you could actually go to the virtual building of a college and they would tell you about how to join their college. Now, so many years have passed and even today we are still talking about the same thing in a metaverse. So what I'm saying is metaverses have not become really cool. Like the kind of interface that I would expect would be something like, say, Avatar kind of an interface, but it looks still like a 20-year-old video game kind of interface. It's really childish. And again, you need to buy these really expensive headsets and heavy headsets. You can't walk around with those, right? I think for metaverse to really pick up, Firstly, it should come into your normal glasses so that anywhere you want, you can be part of it. And secondly, we need a lot of nice graphics in it. And I don't think that's going to happen for many years to come. So no, I'm not very bullish on metaverse at all as of right now, because I've been seeing for the last 10, 15 years, even Second Life hasn't really got the kind of traction that I would expect. So I'm not bullish on it at all. Again, roadmap. Yeah. So Jatin, like I said, I have put this up. So you could just quickly have a look at my Insta and you'll see I made specific posts for DeFi analysts and token economists. So you'll be able to find that there. Any other questions? Okay, that's awesome. So I'm presuming all of, 1 second, there's another question. Is MetaMask here to stay? Would it not perish after some time, if any, better take up? So Gagan, that's a good question. So as of today, MetaMask is the most popular wallet for EVM blockchains, completely free, very, very strong and stable. I'm not saying it cannot get replaced in the future. Of course it can. But I mean, as of today, it is rocking. But I use it all the time, right? So I'm a big fan of Meta. But it's not difficult building your own wallet. Many people have built their own. You have things like Trust Wallet and so many others are there. It's very difficult to predict. It is not the tech which is a problem, because no matter how the tech grows, even MetaMask will implement the best tech. It's more a thing of adoption. And as of today, maximum people use MetaMask. If something better comes, people will move. Abhishek's question is in Instagram. Yeah, every post you'll find there. Shashank's question is NFT used only in digital arts? No, not at all. NFTs is used for many other things. So for example, NFTs can represent gold. They can represent intellectual property. They can represent real estate. NFTs come in all forms. There are collectible NFTs, like some countries have started to issue postage stamps with NFTs. So, you know, if you're a stamp collector, that becomes another use case. So there are lots of NFT use cases. I don't like the digital art NFTs like, you know, Bored Ape Yacht Club and all that. I feel is not going to last. Kingsley's question is thoughts on Filecoin, decentralized storage. So Filecoin is definitely one of my favorite projects when it comes to decentralized storage. So decentralized storage is a whole concept in itself. So there is a concept called IPFS, Interplanetary File System, and Filecoin is the incentive layer for that. So I'm very, very positive on Filecoin. We can also consider it like an Airbnb for data storage. So I think it's a lovely project. I'm not saying buy the crypto of it. I'm not commenting on FIL being a good investment. I'm saying Filecoin as a project is amazing. Where do you see blockchain in 10 years? Okay, if there is one lesson I've learned in life is never try to predict the future. I mean, in 2019, did anyone imagine COVID would come and change the world? So it's very difficult to say what's going to happen in 10 years. I think at most I can say in the next 12 months, I see a lot more use cases coming and becoming live. But I cannot think beyond even a few months at a time. So no clue about what's going to happen in 10 years. Just a brief overview of how token economists helps in fundraising. Sure. So as a token economist, you would decide how is your project going to raise the fund. So there is an ICO, initial coin offering. There is reverse ICO. There are IDOs, which are initial decentralized exchange offerings, initial exchange offerings. Then there are things like SAFTs, security token offerings. So there are lots of them. So as a token economist, you need to understand all of them and figure out for a given project, which would be the best way of raising funds. So that's an example of what a token economist does. That's part of what I do. So I can tell you a lot about token economics. Can you share the PM posts that you mentioned? Yeah, all my posts are on Instagram. So just go, it's ROHASNAGPL, GPAL, Rohas Napal. There are some fake accounts people have made in my name where there would be a double A somewhere. So please don't get stuck in that. I'm sending you the URL for my Insta account, right? 1 second, I've sent it to you. So that's the account that you could use. Okay, let me look at some other questions. Is there a possibility of banks using blockchain? Sure. So one of my first projects in blockchain was called BankChain, where we had 37 of the best banks in the world as part of it, including State Bank, ICICI, Citibank, and so many others. And a lot of projects were being developed, but then unfortunately at that time the RBI ban came and banks thought maybe they're not supposed to use blockchain. Now all that is over, and definitely I see a lot of banks using it. In fact, many of the Indian banks have come together and they have made an organization which is implementing a lot of blockchain use cases. Vivan's point is the VC ecosystem in India is staying away from Web3. How do you think that will impact the... So VCs are never supposed to be in Web3. That's the basic point. Web3 is supposed to be permissionless and decentralized. Now, if you have VCs owning startups, that's not decentralized. So Vivan, I've always told you, as creator, you should raise funds from users, right? Raise it from the community, give them tokens. You could even give them equity shares along with the token. So it becomes an equity token. But that's the way to move forward. VCs are not the way to move forward for Web3. Abhishek, please have a session on IDO. Sure, I'll plan one out, Abhishek. Siddhant, have you heard of a project called Render? Yes, Render, if I'm not mistaken, is something to do with 3D files. Am I right on that? Siddhant, is that the project you're talking about? How to land remote jobs in blockchain as developer. So, you remember I just showed you those steps. You need to follow those steps, right? Those 5 steps that I discussed. So Akshay, if you've joined in late, you can go back and check it out. But those are the steps you're going to follow no matter what career in Web3 you're looking for. What is the name of the blockchain organization? I've forgotten the name. You could just Google it. So let me Google it for you. Just give me a second. Blockchain Association Banks India. Let me see if it. Yeah, it's called IBBIC. Right. Let me just quickly send you the name. IBBIC is the short form. And yeah, I've got the name here. Yeah, I've just put the name in the chat. It is called Indian Banks Blockchain Infrastructure Company Private Limited. A very long name. Yeah, yeah. VC is venture capitalist. That's right. Let me see some more questions. Yes, decentralized rendering of graphics. Yes, Siddharth, I'm aware of. It's a good project. I'm aware of it. Where to find trustworthy remote jobs? So, like I said, I just mentioned those 5 sites to you guys. Web3.career is one of the really good ones, but all the 5 or 6 sites that I mentioned, all of them are pretty good. Why in India we don't see tech giants like Infosys hiring blockchain developer? Tough question for me to answer. Maybe they're not really looking at developing on that, or maybe they already have a team. So what happens is in many cases, you don't have to go and specifically to hire a blockchain developer. Your existing developers can learn APIs and other tools and get blockchain capability. You don't necessarily have to go looking for them. So maybe some of these big companies have trained their own employees to become blockchain developers. I don't know, I'm presuming. Bitcoin has come down almost 50%, but if the same would have happened in any country's currency. Shashank, I don't know why we compare Bitcoin with countries' currencies. They are totally different from each other. There is no correlation or logic or comparison between them. So I wouldn't really want to comment more on that. Knowing theoretical part is different and implementing is different. Okay, I'm not sure what that question is relating to. As of now, I'm perfect in theoretical. Can you? Well, whoever is posting that, you need to give me more information. What exactly do you mean by your question? Prakash says TCS and Cape Gemini have blockchain jobs. Okay, thanks for sharing, but in a less number. Okay. Kingsley says it is not. Okay. So also you've got to remember that blockchain development is happening more in the startups rather than in the big established companies. So maybe instead of looking at the big companies, you should be looking at startup opportunities. So I mentioned those 6-7 sites. There are tons and tons of jobs which are available there. Yeah. Any other questions? Is it all clear? If you have any other questions, you can definitely post them on social media. I'm usually quite active on LinkedIn and Insta, so feel free to connect with me there. And I also do a lot of sessions. I'm going to be doing a session on 7th October, which is on the blockchain, Web3 developer tech stack. But for that, you need 200 Learn tokens to attend. So make sure you earn 200 Learn tokens fast on Creator. You can attend anyone else's lectures also and gain it. And then once you have 200, you can join that session of mine on 7th of October. Vivan, if you could just paste the link for that, it'll help. Apart from blockchain, do you also provide career advice and guidance on hacking? No, Abhishek, I don't. I have not been in the field of hacking since 2015 now. It's about 7 years. So my knowledge of that field is pretty old. So no, I can't guide you on that. like how to implement with the programming. Okay, so if you have the theory knowledge, like I said, now next step you need to go practical. So in the session on 7th October, I'm going to tell you all the different tools and development environments. Learn them and then you can use them to make some simple projects. So for that, 7th October event would be a good way for you to understand what is the next step forward. Few tips on becoming in this. So again, cybersecurity, like I said, I've been out of that field for many years, so I won't be able to really advise you on that. Do you have any courses on token economics? I'm going to be starting one soon, not as of right now. Right now, I'm focusing more on the Web3 tech related teachings. So the one that Vivan's just shared the link here. So that is a Web3 tech stack for developers. So if you're looking at anything practical in that, I would say that's the way forward. So I look forward to seeing you there. Can you recommend some internship or project opportunities in blockchain in India? Offhand, I'm not sure, but like I said, web3.career and other sites, they do list internship opportunities. Then there is also a website called Internshala. So usually a lot of internship opportunities get listed there also. So maybe that's a good way of searching for them. Any other questions? Okay. And Vivan, I hope I've been able to convince you to fundraise through the Web3 model and the decentralized model rather than VCs. If not Vivan, at least I hope some of the other entrepreneurs who listen to me would start to explore. Yeah, because it completely changes the game, right? It is always better if the users of your product become your investors. I mean, there is nothing in the world better than that. That your user and investor is the same guy. You will always get the best advice and people will be happy with you, right? Siddharth says, hope Solana is listening. Yeah, Solana, good question. What is your opinion on blockchain for identity management? I'll be very honest, it does not make much sense to me. Because what value is the blockchain going to add to this, right? When we talk about identity services, your identity ultimately somebody needs to verify and then they need to provide that. Now, am I going to be okay if my identity is available publicly to everyone? No. So if anyway it is going to be centralized authorities who are going to verify your identity, how is the blockchain going to add any value? So blockchains are very good for smart asset lifecycle management, but they are not supposed to be used for handling heavy data. Just remember that. So no, I'm not very bullish on identity services. Why are there so many projects on Solana? I mean, don't they see the downtime and hacks? Prakash, that's a very good point, and I've always been a critic of Solana for this. I was a big fan earlier, but nowadays half the time it is down. I really don't know what those projects do. So you could actually, like I remember some time ago, I tried to create certificates as NFTs on Solana. Half the time it was down. So even I don't understand what people do. Maybe they just announced it, but the projects are not doing well. I have no idea. I also don't understand how it works. I have studied Solidity and React, but understanding DeFi concepts is difficulty. So coding. Well, so I some time ago did a free masterclass called DeFi Masterclass where I explained a lot of the financial aspects. If you go to my site, you'll be able to find those videos, or on my YouTube channel, you can find those. Those will help you. Ritesh says we may require more clarity on legal aspects of raising funds through tokens, etc. Yeah, Ritesh, I will be covering those issues in my blockchain law course. Prakash says, I see so many jobs requiring Solana and Rust. Yeah, Prakash, I also see that happening. Well, if it works, it works. I mean, some of us don't like Solana because of the downtime, but then if enough projects are hiring, well, then that's the way to move forward. But also, I'd like to tell you for a lot of blockchains, you don't need to learn each blockchain. You can just do it, learn the APIs. So things like Datum and all, you can just use those APIs and you don't need to specifically learn, say, Rust or how Solana works. You could just use APIs. So it depends upon what you're actually trying to do. Vivan says, can you do a session on security token? Yeah, sure. I'll definitely plan that out, Vivan. Any other questions? So in fact, if you want to know which smart contract language is good, go to defilama.com and they've actually mentioned based on TVL or total value locked, which are the most popular smart contract languages in the world. So on top is always, as of right now, Solidity. Second is Viper, if I'm not mistaken, but you could check it out from there. Ritesh says, I attended your DeFi masterclass. It was really insightful. Yes, so Ritesh, what I'm planning to do is a detailed course called Token Economist. But I'll be very honest with you, it's not going to be a free course because it's going to take a lot of effort from my side. But I am working on that and I should be launching that very soon. Uh, Prakash says it can't just be applied using Open Zeppelin. That's why I said, Prakash, Open Zeppelin is like step one. After that, then you've got to figure out what is the next step and how do you want to actually do this. So it depends on what use case you're working on. So maybe if you attend that 7th October program, which I was mentioning, a lot of these questions will get answered in there. Someone says, I want to learn about L1, L2 protocol layer. Sure. So in L1, I would say some of the important ones are definitely Algorand, Ethereum, Polkadot. So some of these are very important ones. I made a whole list. Let me just quickly pull that up and tell you. Definitely Algorand, Avalanche, Bitcoin, Binance Smart Chain, Cardano, Ethereum, Litecoin, HiFi blockchain, Polkadot, Solana, and Tezos. These are the main ones when it comes to L1. And in L2, of course, you have Optimism, Polygon. These are some of the important ones. So again, you can download this Web3 tech stack image that I made. All of these are mentioned in there. Polkadot says they are L0. Well, in a way, they're right when they say that because Polkadot is a very interesting structure, right? So they have these relay chain, the relay chain, and then on top of that, you have multiple different blockchains. So in a way, they are right that Polkadot represents that relay chain on which different blockchains are running, and the relay chain takes care of finality and consensus. So yeah, in a way, they're right. So when I talk about Polkadot, I'm talking more about the blockchains that you would build on top of Polkadot, and I'm not talking about the relay chain per se. But yeah, they're right in there. What is your opinion on Mina blockchain? Unfortunately, I have not heard about it. Yeah, Siddhant, parachains, that's the right one. So there is relay chain and then there are parallel blockchains called parachains. Mina blockchain, I have not heard of, so I won't be able to comment on that. Any other questions? Was it all clear? Okay, I'll still give a few seconds more. If you guys have any other questions, let's have them. Okay, I'm guessing we do not have any more questions. So it was nice speaking to all of you, and I look forward to seeing some of you guys on 7. Akshay says, is Bitcoin script similar to coding language in terms of syntax? That's a good question. I think Bitcoin is written in C++. Am I right on that? Let me just check it. Hold on. I'll just Google it. So, oh yeah, it is in C++. So Bitcoin is written in C++. So I don't know if that helps, but you could go to GitHub and you could download the repository. I mean, Bitcoin Core is available as an open source project. So you could just go and download it and see the entire code. Can you please share some interview prep questions? Yeah, I have. So recently I posted the first series of interview questions. There are 39 of them in that. So maybe you could start with that. Let me just quickly share the link of that for you. Give me a second. And I'll be coming out with the second part very soon. Yeah. So if you're looking for the first set of interview questions, this is the link. And I'll keep posting more. Okay. Can you tell the price for the token economics masterclass? I have not finalized that yet. Yeah. I'm currently just finalizing the syllabus. And as soon as the syllabus is ready, I'll declare that and then we'll figure out the pricing also. In fact, you know what, I'm planning to do some kind of an auction system where I'm going to ask people to bid how much they're ready to pay for that masterclass. Maybe let's try something different, right? Since we are talking about tokens and Web3, maybe even the pricing should happen very differently. But don't worry, even if you cannot afford those courses, I keep doing a lot which is relating to, Web3 tech and all that, a lot of free courses which you can do with Learn Tokens. And Vivan says we have built out, oh yeah, Vivan has a good auction system on Krita. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, Vivan, that's a good idea. So I look forward to doing it on that. Yep. Gagan says you're doing great work for learners. Thanks a lot. Most welcome, Gagan. And pass it on. Whatever you learn from me, please make sure you go and share it with other people. Any other questions? So Vivan, later maybe if you could just guide me on how exactly I could use this auction facility. I just completely slipped my mind that that functionality is there in Creator. Yeah. Okay, Rishi. Thank you so much. Welcome. Bye bye. I'll see you guys later.